Hey, good morning, guys. It's Jim with Technosonic. Thanks for joining us. We're back with Radio 101 version 2. So today we're going to be looking at firmware upgrades for the TDFM 9000 series radios. It's a simple process that we're going to actually break into two videos. The first one is prep, the second is execution. So bear with us, stay with us, and we'll get you right into firmware upgrades. Thanks for joining.
Hey guys, so before we get too far into the video, I want to answer a couple questions that everybody's going to have. And the first question that usually comes to mind is, how is this going to affect my radio? What am I really doing with the firmware upgrade? What we're really doing with the firmware upgrade is we are addressing the Technosonic side of the radio. The Technosonic side of the radio is things like the front panel, the main software, which is the motherboard of the radio, the bootloader, which is what the main software sits on. And then we also have the smaller processors in the radio called JM60s. These are kind of like the interpreters. They are talking to the main and they are talking to Motorola, to the Motorola modules. On the other side of this line, we have the APX modules themselves. These are the transceivers, the Motorola transceivers, and these are what hold the code plugs and operate as the radio itself. So we have the front side of the radio that controls the back side. Updating the front side, Technosonic side, does not affect the back side. Updating the Motorola side does not affect the Technosonic side. So you're safe in what you're doing here. You're not going to have to reload code plugs or have any kind of issues that way. So what we're going to need to do our firmware update is, the first thing obviously is we're going to need a laptop. This laptop must have a working USB port and internet access. The USB port is how we talk to the radio. The internet access is so that we can get the software onto the laptop. If you are a government type, if you are a city laptop or something like that, oftentimes your admin rights are removed and you cannot run executables. If that's the case, you're going to have to plan for that, because we will be running some executables and adding some drivers. The last piece of hardware that we're going to need is the PC9000 programming cable itself. This is the same cable that you utilize to write to the code plugs from Motorola and so forth. Plugs into the front of the radio and has a USB side on the laptop side. The software is 3 pieces of software that we're going to need. The first piece is TerraTerm. That's a terminal emulator that we utilize to talk to the radio and to transfer files. We're going to need a USB to serial driver, because out of the laptop we're USB, but we're talking serial into the radio. And then we're going to need the TDFM 9000 firmware files themselves. So when we're planning our upgrade, plan accordingly. TerraTerm, we're going to have that installed before we can do anything. The USB, the serial driver, we're going to have that installed as well. And if you haven't seen it lately, you're going to have to track down that PC9000 programming cable. Take time to do these things after this video, so once we get to video number 2 and we actually look at updating the firmware, the physical part of that, you're ready to go. Again, if you're a company, if you have a company laptop or a government laptop, check those admin rights, because those sometimes can hold you up for days to try to get your software loaded onto the radio, onto the laptop. Okay, so we are going to now transfer in, and we're going to go through the process of downloading these items, the TerraTerm, the USB, and the programming software, and getting that loaded onto the laptop. And here we go with that. Hey guys, now we're going to look at how do we get the software. So the software process and downloading the resources you need is very simple. All we need to do is access our web browser. And we're going to go to til.ca. That will bring you to Technosonic's website, and you'll see a home page that looks like this. We're going to simply navigate over to our support tab and go to programming software. Once we're on the programming software page, we're going to work from the bottom up. And the first thing I'm going to download is the TerraTerm programming software. Now this, you only have to do this one time. Once you've done this, you don't have to do it each time you want to do an upgrade. It just needs to be there on the machine. So we're going to download TerraTerm. And it's just going to give us a zip file. It's going to drop it right into our download files. The next thing we're going to do is download the USB driver. This USB driver is a driver that goes USB to serial, and that is how we connect to the radio. We're utilizing this driver. Most Windows machines already have this, but we have seen instances where it does not. So it's here for your easy access, and it's a simple process. Go to the Future Technologies link. And we're simply going to scroll down on the FIDI chip page to the drivers. What we're looking for is the Windows desktop driver. The release date is 3/4/25. And what I like to do, keeping it simple, is I'm just going to grab as a setup executable. I'm going to select right here, setup executable. And we're going to download that, again, another zip file. We can go ahead and close that window, and back to Technosonic. We're going to scroll up to the top of the page to TDFM 9000-9100 software upgrade. We'll read more. And we're on to the 9000 series software page. There are two sections here. There's the TDFM 9000 series software release. We're currently version 2.9.1. And we also have the TDFM 9100 series software release. We're at version 2.1.5. If you have a 9100, you're going to want to use the 9100 software release. If you have any other TDFM 9000 series radio, that would be the 9000, the 9200, or the 9300, we're going to grab the TDFM 9000 series release here. To download is a simple download right at the bottom. Download the latest TDFM 9100 software, or download the latest TDFM 9000 software. I'm going to select the 9000 software, and it's going to give us our downloads. Once we have those downloads done, we are complete with this page. We have all the software resources we need, and we can go ahead and close the browser. Our next step is to navigate to our download file. And there we will see all three of these files listed here as compressed and zip files. Now we can't load software, we can't use zip files, so we will have to extract each of these. I highly suggest you keep these in the download file where it's easy to get to, and that will make more sense when we get to actually writing to the radio. TerraTerm is extract all. I'm going to accept that. My USB driver file, I'm going to extract all. I'm going to accept that. In my TDFM 9000 software, extract all, accept that. Now you can see I have zip files, which you can see on your screen. These are zip files. These top three are zip files, and these are the extracted files. I can go ahead and either move these files to a different folder, or I can delete them. That is up to you how you want to manage your files. I'm just going to delete the zip file so I don't accidentally try to load from the zip files. TerraTerm and the CDM setup are very simple. Open TerraTerm and run the application. You will have to say yes, next, accept their agreements. This is just a very simple little terminal emulator program. It's been around a long time, and we're running the version 4.7.5. We're doing that because I know 4.7.5 works well, and it doesn't give our operators any kind of static as far as its operation goes. So I'm going to install that and finish. I'm going to take a moment and install this driver. Say yes. Extract. Next. I accept the agreement. Go ahead and load the software. And that is finished. And finally, I'm going to go up and we're going to look in our software file. So here's our TDFM 9000 firmware file. And in this file, you're going to find a number of items. You're going to find a document that walks you through the upgrade process. This is the entire upgrade procedure. We have a release document in text. We have main bootloader software. And then we have a file for each version of 9000. The TDFM 9000, the 9300, and the 9200. If I open that file, you'll see 3 files in here. Documents, JM60, and main. And those are the files that we're going to need to upgrade this radio. So let's go ahead and take our next step, and take the next step as far as what we need to do to upgrade our radio. And that is going to be to note the radio setup as we have it. So we'll be right back, and we'll take a look at the next section. So the next step in our upgrade process of the TDFM 9000 is to document. What we're looking to document is actually how the radio is currently set up. It's a simple process. This is something you can do with just a little. You power the radio and bring your cell phone out to the radio, and we're going to go through and just capture some information from the pages on the radio. So the first page that we're going to look at, and the most important things that we're going to look at, can be found on the configuration menus. So to get to configuration menus, we are going to hit the function button, next, and the second line down, configuration menus. What this does is this allows us to turn features on and off on the radio based on our operator's needs and wants. And there's about 6 pages here we're going to look at, and each page has some options on it. In this case, we have knob default, volume channel mode, numlock mode, recall mode, backlighting, and F1 through F4 keys. Now what we have done here is we have actually disabled our numlock mode and our recall mode. So I'm just going to take my camera, I'm going to take a quick snap of that screen, and I'm going to say next. Again, more options, what we turn on, what we don't turn on, so what we see, what we don't see on this radio. So dual user mode is disabled, always on mode is disabled, we have a carrier squelch indicator, we got rid of our high-low power indicator, our ESW, and our TSW indicators. Next. Oops, I'm sorry. Next, we have our side tone level settings. This is where what the pilot hears when he talks into the mic, so we can regulate his voice. Squelch settings. Usually these would be disabled after loading new software. We'll need to enable them. RFM5. This page is for those 9300 operators out there. If you have a 9300, you will have this page. If you have a 9000, you will not have this page. Numlock timers, admin timers, alternate menu direction for the rotary knob, mute indicators are all set on the next page. If we have colors in play, this is where we would change them. So if I want, we can make that a white one instead of purple. We're going to say next. External transceivers. If we are using MCP ports, this is where they are enabled or disabled. I currently only have external transceiver 1 enabled. Take a picture of that, and then we're going to hit the home button, and that is done. This is an important setup because this is how the pilots see the radio. If you look at this radio right now with things turned off, it's a pretty simple radio. I've got a channel information, I've got a mute indicator, I've got whether it's a direct or repeater channel, and I've got a PL tone indicator. And that's all we're really seeing. Because we've turned off TSW, high-low power, ESW. We've turned off those indicators because we're not using those functions in the radio. Okay, so once we have that done, we can go ahead and power the radio off again, and we'll move into the next step of our setup. Hey guys, it's Jim, and thank you for joining us for this section of Radio 101, Radio Upgrades Preparation. We hope the information that you have here is helpful and that you now feel very well prepared to go through the next step, which is execution. So that's going to be the second video in the series. Go to Radio 101, Radio Upgrades, Execution, and we're going to take all those tools that we've just built and put them to work. Thank you for all your time. Thank you for your support from Technosonic, and we'll see you in the next video.